I want you to understand that global pandemic right now, as severe as it seems, and it's taken over 500,000 lives, in spite of that, it is a small distraction from a larger trouble that's unfolding in the form of loss of biodiversity, climate change, ecological undoing of the planet in various ways. That is a much, much bigger problem, and we are happily walking towards a disaster, not walking, pushing the world towards it.
As an addendum to the last video, these two individuals are good examples of representatives of the idea of big spirit in regards to big tech, big pharma, big food, whatever it is. There's a very tangible community of what I'm calling big spirit. The main role that big spirit plays in the overall agenda is pretty much multifaceted. A lot of it is designed to dismiss other perspectives, but the big part is to downplay the depths of the storylines that are all interconnected, interwoven, and all a part of pretty much the same team. The other side of that is to generate this idea among the masses of people and the individuals that New Age perspectives like love and light and coming together, unity, everything will change once we do something as a unified people. We will generate this utopia, as people like Russell Brand constantly spat out all the time. We're capable of creating this utopia if we just come together in love. With the video I just shared in this video, you can also see the agenda of setting the platform, setting the basis for the mainstream evolving itself into this heal itself, get better momentum involving the problems of the world that are a result of modern lifestyles adding up to things like climate change and the destroying of animals and insects. And taking these perspectives puts these individuals in the driver's seat. It puts them in the seat of the superhero, and the actions of the masses and the people behind the scenes are the supervillains. The main point that I make on this channel is that the superheroes and the supervillains, who are all televised on the same networks, are all on the same team. The supervillains are used to generate this idea in the moment so that the superheroes of the future, the artificial superheroes of the future, are used to usher in the bigger picture programs. So the supervillains are used to consume your time, distract you with what's going on in the moment. They can demonize individuals and get everybody emotionally riled up so you can vote on certain things, so you can make certain decisions, so you can feel a certain way, feel fearful, because driving your emotions will cause you to make moves in the moment more quickly. Whereas the bigger picture moves last over time, and those moves need to be brought in by people that you trust, these superheroes. So you have your Elon Musk, who on one level warns you about transhumanism and AI, yet pushes things like the Neuralink, inserting technology into your brain, which is transhumanism, pushes these autonomous vehicles that is just creating another grid, another artificial intelligence grid, taking your power away, eventually forcing you to only go where the grid, the network that controls these autonomous vehicles, forcing you to only go wherever they let you go. This is all under the guise of for your own benefit in relation to this jab campaign that's going on, which is another way to make them into the superheroes. We're doing this for your own benefit, your protection, your health and welfare, the health and welfare of your grandparents, of your children. We have to do this. We have to come together and do this. Same as climate change. We have to come together and protect the earth. But in the long run, are they really taking into account what's beneficial for you? Or are you just a pawn in a bigger chess match, manipulating and forcing you into certain decisions? A friend of mine dealing with a DUI situation has to attend these like DUI classes or whatever. And he just told me that in order to get in the building to sign up for these classes, they required that you show proof of vaccination. This was a requirement just to get into the building to attend these classes. This is how far this system is going. Next to paying you money and offering you free food to get vaccinated, all this other stuff, this is how far they want to push you into this agenda. And like I said, this is for your own benefit, right? This is for you. They work for you. This is why I've said in previous videos, it's the communities of people, the individuals who are coming from this progressive, for your benefit perspective that are actually going to usher in the biggest programs of manipulation and control. It's not the bad guys that are going to bust through the door with guns blazing that are going to push these agendas that are going to last for decades and centuries. It's the politicians. It's your spiritual teachers. It's your social media influencers, your celebrities that you trust that are going to both consciously and unconsciously push and manipulate generations of people into these traps. People like Sadhguru and Ralph Smart, they're good examples of these spiritual teachers, this big spirit community, like big tech, like big pharma, who are working on different levels of interaction. And if you watch that whole video, you can tell what separates them. Sadhguru is working on a more collective interaction with the masses, while Ralph Smart is more individual focused. And that's why I said these are the most dangerous, because that's where they can just say and make up whatever they want. As long as it sounds good, as long as it feels good, as long as it's different from the mainstream, they can go on and on and on and on, feeding these belief systems, feeding these feel-good fortune cookie phrases to the masses and these individuals. And simply because they are different, they will be pushed. They will be the ones who are not censored. They will be the ones who are projected into the consciousness of the masses of people, so they can copy and paste, just repeat exactly what these individuals are doing, act like this individual. Even in this video, you can kind of see how Sadhguru, in a way, like sets Ralph straight. Ralph completely like cowers. It's not in a respect thing. He's mostly being careful because he knows Sadhguru could just rip all of that fortune cookie shit right out of his belief systems and make him look like a fool. So he focuses only on these questions that he has prepared and doesn't really want to go into his normal spiel. And when he does, Sadhguru just cuts that shit right down. So for a couple examples, Sadhguru asks him, so are you breathing now? To get into an example of something, he asked him, are you breathing now? And that was just a setup in Ralph's mind to go into his whole breathing in this good ass prana. And of course he couldn't miss that opportunity. So when Sadhguru, you can see the hesitation too in the video. So when Sadhguru asked him, are you breathing? You're breathing right now, right? And then he's like, yes, I'm breathing in this good ass prana. He felt like a little kid saying some dumb shit in front of some old ass wise elder. And of course, Sadhguru just chopped it all the way down. He said, yeah, well, that's your thing. But you can see how these are just catchphrases. He's an entertainer. He's a spiritual entertainer. Whereas you have Sadhguru, who is like a spiritual teacher. Once you get into the idea of spirituality, you don't need teachers. Once you solidify, you're your own spiritual teacher. The spiritual entertainers and spiritual teachers are really just to reinforce your own so-called spiritual belief systems. It's all extra. But that extra is marketable, when it's put on YouTube, when it's dealing with individuals who are constantly evolving and changing, you have the potential to make a profit off of something like that, because there's no one fixed thing that's going to fill all the gaps that these individuals are looking for. Spirituality plays this role in an individual's life to act as a stepping stone from one space to another. But the big spirit community, what it does is it makes that stepping stone an entire foundation. It expands that stepping stone into a livelihood. It expands it into a community. And since this community is based upon so-called positive feelings and positive reinforcement, as opposed to the entire world, which is just completely destructive and feels like shit to a lot of people, people are happy with being there because they don't want the alternative. They no longer resonate with who they used to be, the mainstream version of who they used to be. They are now in a community of evolved, awakened, enlightened individuals, and they just want to stay there. So anything that challenges that, this is why people in that community cannot even entertain the idea of the healing that needs to come from centuries of racism, the psychology behind all of that. They don't see that as a so-called spiritual thing that needs to be addressed, because it's connected to, in their eyes, a lower vibrating version of themselves, a lower vibrating version of humanity. Race is make-believe. We're all human, so let's just move on. That's basically where they're coming from. So this is a big part of the New Age community's involvement in dismissing very tangible events that need to take place inside of individuals in order to move off of those stepping stones. There are many things and tools that are used in these New Age communities that are meant for brushing things under the rug and covering things up and just acting like they don't exist so they can focus their perspective on something that feels better. These teachers and spiritual entertainers and spiritual teachers are used to maintain that feeling. This is why Ralph Smart is a good example of that feeling. He has those catchphrases, that breathing in that good ass prana, where out in nature, just identifying himself with things that feel good, that are counter to the system. And in order to counteract that entertainment style, he very loosely and like glazes over these topics and conversations that involve deeper subjects, but he won't go deep into them. He'll just reference them to keep people from addressing the fact that he's not addressing them. It's very similar to like in that video where Ralph Smart asked Sadhguru about the pandemic. He quickly goes into the climate change. Well, these are bigger problems that we need to focus on. This is a distraction from this thing. Is that not true? No, of course not. It's obviously a distraction. But what he calls what we should be focusing on, that in itself is also a distraction. Not only a distraction, but part of a bigger manipulative program. So so-called spiritual teachers speak on information that involves the larger scale masses of people, keeping those individuals on a big stepping stone, while people like Teal Swan, Ralph Smart, and Russell Brand keep people on their individual stepping stone. Another good example in that interview to see the difference between the two is when Ralph does start to speak about something, he starts talking about, oh, well, the universe does this, and Sadhguru immediately cuts that down. Well, don't involve the universe. Like, who are you to be speaking from the perspective of the universe? And that's not even what I'm talking about right here. He says, we're talking about the people, the actions of the people. Don't involve the universe. That's a big part of the New Age community, involving these very abstract concepts like the universe doing things. It's an easy thing to just say, well, the universe is doing this or the universe did that. Since there's a huge amount of narcissism in the New Age community, the universe plays a big part in deflecting responsibility of these individuals and the community in general. If there's issues or situations that the community isn't dealing with, they can just write it all off on the universe. Same thing goes with the individuals. Something's going on in your life. Oh, well, the universe did this. And we should just move on. Do a little meditation. Ooh, that feels good. Do some yoga. Ooh, that feels good. Now I'm in a mode of feeling good. I can just move on. The day's over. I can start the next day. Now we're in another thing. We'll just address whatever comes on in this situation from that perspective now. And they just use their spiritual tool belt to address these very personal situations to deflect and in many cases pass the responsibility off on something else or somebody else. And once we get into that mode of utilizing these distractions as part of our reality, like the universe, it becomes a part of how we interact with the world in general. So we start to create this relationship with our creator, with the universe, with this multidimensional future and past life version of ourselves, all these things that are out there that are very entertaining for our consciousness, for our focus. We expand upon something that is extra. So like an individual who was commenting on the last video presented a question relating to our creator, saying something like, if we were created, then isn't it our purpose to acknowledge our creator? Pretty much just complicating, like overcomplicating the experience in general. The very nature of how we perceive this experience is an illusion. Your mind has to develop the way you calculate what's going on in this reality. Your eyes, you're not actually seeing things. That when you explain something, you're not explaining what it is. You're using this rudimentary vocabulary and language to explain certain things, but it'll never be what it is. Your name doesn't explain who you are. Your so-called race doesn't explain who you are, what you are, your people. No, it could never explain. It could never envelop the essence of whatever it is that you're addressing, defining. So that's why my response to that question of acknowledging our creator started off with the illusion. Any kind of illusion is an illusion. Illusion is illusion is illusion. And where did this idea of purpose come from? These are all belief systems. An acknowledgement, so-called acknowledgement of a creator, is still just a product of the mind. And if we get into the acknowledging of a creator, isn't it possible that something like that could actually do more harm than any good? Like I said, you'll never be able to envelop whatever that is. So in going into that storyline, in going into that relationship with your own experience, you very much have the potential of downgrading who and what you are because you are trying to define something that is bigger than you. All of this coming from the complexities of the mind. With the limitations of the mind to complexify, to get into the extreme complexities of trying to conceive something beyond this experience. The downside to that is that you can generate belief systems, religions, entire communities of people who are now buying into these beliefs, buying into these limitations. And when you look at things like religious war, we'll go to war, we'll destroy people because of these belief systems. And use those belief systems to justify actions and behaviors that have nothing to do with the original thought, that have nothing to do with the morals or the vibration of the original beliefs. They've taken that energy and repurposed it for something far worse. So why overcomplicate these perspectives with these illusions? It's exactly the same thing. Religious wars. It's no different than spiritual teachers preaching to you that we need to come together and unify to fight climate change. They don't want to deal with the causes. They don't want to face the individuals, the intelligence behind these events, behind these interconnected programs that are working years and decades in the future. No, their only use is to control and manipulate you right now. This is what these spiritual teachers are. This is what these spiritual entertainers are. This is what big spirit is overall. It's designed to maintain your distraction, your positively reinforced distraction, to work in contrast to the negatively reinforced distraction that is the mainstream media, Hollywood, the education system, so on and so forth. Your shitty lifestyle is the negative reinforcement to push you into, to make you run into the open arms of spiritual teachers and communities like the New Age community. And once you get there, they have you locked in that ball of trust, that world of love and light and community, working towards a better tomorrow, a utopian future, a place where we as humanity are free. So they spout all these fortune cookie things like stay free. Russell Brand constantly telling you that we as a people need to work towards a utopia. We could do it. Stay free. Infinite Waters, pretty much preaching to the kindergarten, the initial entries into the New Age community. Then once they grow up, they can get into the sad gurus. And if they want to get back into dealing hands-on with the community, then they can start sprinkling in a little Russell Brand and watching a little Joe Rogan and seeing how Joe Rogan is in communication with Russell Brand and see what Sadhguru is talking about. And for those of you who are a little uncomfortable about me even talking about Sadhguru and these so-called spiritual teachers, like I said, if you really want to know a deeper perspective of my perspective on the overall involvement of spiritual teachers in these sinister programs, just listen to or watch some video footage of the perspectives of UG Krishnamurti. He breaks it down far deeper than I am right now, and he did it years and years and years ago. But if you have any question about someone like Sadhguru, and I was on the fence for Sadhguru for a long time because, like I said, these individuals, these teachers, they're not necessarily lying to you. They're not telling you things that aren't true completely. There's much benefit in what they're saying. But the interaction, the storyline is far more complex than what comes out of their mouth. It's the relationship with their bigger community. It's their relationship with you. It's the relationship with that bigger community has with you as an individual and as the mass of people. Those relationships, those conversations don't get discussed. And in that not discussing, and this spills over, like I've said in previous videos, this spills over into the truther community. Truthers, individual truthers, are doing the same thing as people like Ralph Smart. They deal with the individuals. They keep people consumed in the never-ending storylines that come in every day from the mainstream media and the ever expanding wealth of information that you can talk about. You can talk about any perspective for hours upon hours. You can debate. Everybody's going to have so many different perspectives. And these will be very smart, very intelligent individuals with very positive perspectives. But you're spinning wheels. You're consuming time, getting people vested into a community of dismissiveness and distraction. The very nature of that spiral is destructive because it's holding people there under the guise of helping them move forward. So you have your individual truthers, then you have your bigger stream truthers, little YouTube influencers, little debate teams talking about perspectives, little like QAnon circles and stuff like that. And then you have the Russell Brands and the Joe Rogans. It's no different than like a Ralph Smart in comparison to a Sadhguru. And then once you get into that space, Russell Brand has his bigger perspective individuals that he pulls from, and so on and so forth. But as far as influence goes, you're going from truther YouTuber to mainstream educational intellectual influencer. Your Elon Musk, your Noam Chomsky's, people who are connected to those bigger streams of consciousness, all to keep people in that idea of moving forward, in that idea of expansion. Meanwhile, the overstories, the stories that connect all of these little networks and communities, constantly get dismissed, constantly get ignored. And the perspectives that individuals are sharing that are of a benefit, the work that needs to be done, the undoing of mind control that is very possible to do, the undoing of what racism has done. Just saying racism doesn't exist and we need to move on and you're thinking a low energy, that's not doing anything for the cancer that has been set in masses of people for hundreds of years. It's not going to do anything. Diving into the depths of how this has affected us psychologically and so on and so forth. It's the only way you're actually going to be able to heal yourself. On one level, is it the fix all? Of course not. But it is a fix that individuals and masses of people very much need to get into and will benefit from. But people who are selling you the idea that they have the fix all, they have the cure all. This is what truthers are. That's what the basis of the truther community is. It's a fix all. They have the truth. They have the pill, which is truth. Whether it's some individual coming from this perspective of truth or somebody who says they have all of the truth or they are open to the idea of truth. They're selling you a fix-all to something that needs specific attention, something that needs a specialist. In regards to that perspective, you basically have pediatricians. These truthers are like pediatricians claiming to have all of the answers for all the sicknesses and diseases of the people of the world. No, you have specialists who deal with these certain diseases that these people are dealing with. It's not to say that there's a person out there that you need to go see. There can be specialists out there that can help you, but ultimately, you are the specialist and you need to focus on certain things, one thing at a time, in order to get to the depths of what that is and how it affects you on the deepest levels. You become the specialist. But if you're just writing everything off as, well, you're in lower energy, you're still talking about racism? Oh my God. It's so much deeper than that. No, we're the people who are bringing up these perspectives are talking about something that requires years and years of breakthroughs from these specialist perspectives. And since you've been surrounding yourself by pediatricians, people who are dealing with common colds and little owies here and there, you fixed your little owies and you dealt with that little cough you had, that doesn't make you an enlightened, awakened being. It's more complicated than that. So, in closing, I forgot almost that video I wanted to show you. If you're still feeling a certain way about me sharing whatever about Sadhguru, for those who are already been following this channel, you know what's going on with the climate change in reference to the bigger picture agenda and so on and so forth. But as far as an individual manipulative relationship that these so-called spiritual teachers have, just see what he says in reference to the jab in this video and see if you still feel the same way. And like I said, when it really comes down to it, these spiritual teachers dealing with the masses and these spiritual entertainers, these spiritual influencers or social media influencers like Ralph Smart, Russell Brand, and Teal Swan, so on and so forth. It's not that they're going to side with the controllers, the manipulators. It's that they have no other choice because they've conditioned themselves into that mode of thinking. And they are the examples that the system needs them. This is why they are promoted. They're the examples that need to be existing for other people to follow, to emulate. And once they start following them, once they start emulating them, they will go along with whatever the system wants them to. And this is how you can get individuals and a mass of people locked into a mind control program from the moment to 10, 20, 30, 100 years into the future.
It is very important that everybody gets vaccinated. We need to understand health is not an absolute thing. Health is something that we achieve incrementally. So the same thing goes for the vaccination. Right now, vaccination is a must for everybody. Nobody should evolve philosophies of anti-vax. This is just rubbish right now, putting everybody's life to risk.